So let us quickly review on the loss functions that we had discussed and then move on to the regularization in this class. So we have seen that there is one loss function that is widely used for multi-class classification, that is multi-class SVM loss or the hinge loss. Okay, so what is the characteristic based on which this hinge loss is formed? Can one of you tell what is the main intuition or the principle by which this loss is formulated? A conceptual answer. A quick answer is welcome.
A sample which has the highest score has been classified correctly. So based on the score.
Yeah, we are classifying the samples based on their scores. Correct. So we are assuming that highest is the score among the different class scores here. To that class, the given sample is classified. And the training is also done in that way. So if the correct class score is not higher than the other class scores, then we consider it as the loss. And that we account here at each neuron, what is the loss? And then we sum them together across all the neurons, except the neuron having highest, like the correct label. And that sum is the loss of that sum. The total loss is minimized to update the weights. Right? So now the other loss that we discussed is based on the softmax layer. We can convert the scores into probabilities, and then the loss is formulated on the probabilities, measuring the divergence or the distance of the density at the large PDF at the output neurons with from the target PDF. Okay, so that is done through KL divergence, and that in turn gives the cross entropy loss. Okay, so are these two things clear? And this is the expression. I hope you understood the derivation of this expression, and it is important to remember this as well. If you have any questions on this, please ask now. Any questions here between the two loss functions? Okay, if there are no questions, then let us see the difference between SVM loss and cross entropy loss. This is where we stopped the previous class, or we were discussing the previous class. So the range of both these loss functions, as you can see, is 0 to infinity. The first one is very clear, where you can see that the scores are from minus infinity to infinity, but the loss is accounted only if the score is higher than the at the correct label score. Okay, and this corresponds to this, and it is max function over 0, because we don't want to consider if it is score is already less for the other neurons compared to the neuron having the correct label, then it loss is 0. Okay, so based on this, the range is from 0 to infinity. What is the range of this? So you can see that this goes from minus infinity to infinity, but this goes only from 0 to infinity. Okay, and hence this is 0 to infinity. Log of this you can consider minus of log of this. So you can consider from 0 to infinity is the range of this loss function. Again, one very important thing to note for training neural networks is during initial phase, when we just initialize the weights, how does the network behaves? What is the loss value of the network? That's very important thing that need to be understood or to be clear to start or proceed. So that you can see here it is equal to, so in this case, so at the beginning all scores are equally likely. In that case, these two can cancel and the summation is over C neurons, but leaving the correct neuron. Okay, output neuron. So it is C minus 1. That is here. And this one, if you see, you are summing over C. These and this are same. You are summing over C. So 1 by C. A minus ln of 1 by C, it is ln of C. Okay, this is a good check, in fact, for at the starting of any neural network, including CNNs. Okay, so and then this is the other thing that we need to see is how does this loss functions behave? Okay, when we see some variation or there is a variation in the scores, and that you can see here. If the score is higher than say SYA, then you will have a loss, right? The other neuron score is greater than the correct label neuron score, then you will have a loss. But the score of the other neurons are higher, but just only higher by a small margin, then you will have and the loss varies from 0 to 1. Because as you can see here, this 0 like max of this, right? So this variation is only between 0 to 1. Okay, so it's 0 to 1. So it gradually, you can see here the loss here initially, initially the loss is high when the scores are other scores are high compared to the correct label neuron score, and subsequently the loss decreases gradually when the score of the correct neuron keep increasing. When the score of the correct neuron keep further increasing, then the loss becomes 0. So there is a gradual change from 0, like the high loss, to 0 loss. However, after 0, I think there is it will be 0. Okay, there is small variations here. Okay, will not make any changes. Say 10 point, say if this is actually 10 and this is also 10. Okay, so 9.7 and then to 10.3. Okay, it will make only small changes here. Okay, so whereas here if we see the one thing directly to notice, it is raised to the exponential. So whatever is change in SY, there will be good change in e power SY. That's one thing to note. And further, you can see from the expression also. So for the small changes in Sj minus Sy, for small changes here, you can see reasonable changes. So that that accounts in this cross entropy loss. So it is more stringent constraint in convergence than this in that way. Fine. Any questions here? Okay. So what I would suggest is, so you take some couple of samples to understand these loss functions. You take couple of samples and a couple of classes. So let us assume that we have a 3-class classification problem where S1, S2, S3 are the scores at the output neurons, and cat, dog, person may be the classes. And we want to classify the given sample. These are all different samples. Given sample based on the scores to one of the class. Okay. The true label and the label that is given by this scores need not be same or can be same. It depends upon the score that we get. Okay. So I would suggest you to just compute the loss L1, L2 and L3, etc. and then combine them to get the correct loss or total loss for first sample. Similarly, loss for the second sample, third sample, and so on for the cross and first for multi-class SVM loss and subsequently for the cross entropy loss. I would suggest you to compute and see for the small variations, okay, in the one of the scores, what happens, okay, and if there are scores are different, is it correctly classifying based on the scores to correct class and so on. I would suggest you to experiment with this these values. Of course, there are some slides from Professor Fifi Lee team, which also have good examples, giving some scores, and then to which class the linear classifier based on multi-class SVM loss function, as well as with the cross entropy loss function is classifying. So I would encourage you to follow up that discussion as well. Any questions here?
So that's second true label is dog, sir, X2?
No, this is second sample.
Second.
Yes. First sample. So I can write here. These are samples.
True labels, sir. 2 cats are given.
No, true labels are this. Cat is true label. Okay, and here are scores. Okay, so you see, for example, if we want to do for the first one, so I assume that we want to do for X1. Okay, so take any sample. Which sample shall we do? The first sample, shall we see what the losses are?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so it is multi-class SVM loss. If you see, it will be say, how is it defined? Can you quickly tell? Please tell the definition of multi-class SVM loss or hinge loss.
Summation J not
Yeah.
equal to Y.
Yeah, summation over
J not
Yeah.
equal to Y. Max of 0
J
is
equal
J
to 1
minus
to
C.
J not equal to Yi. Yi is sample of this. See, this is 2 label is cat. So what is Yi here? 1, 2 or 3? Which is Yi?
1.
Right. Here Yi equal to first sample X1. Okay, Y1 is equal to 1. Right? That accidentally has happened. Okay, nothing to do with Y1. So X1 means 1. Okay, like that. So if you see here, this, for example, even here, fine. Here, for example, what is correct class? X3, what is Y? For X3 sample. What is Y?
3.
It is 3, correct.
3.
Oh, fine. This also accidentally. For X2 sample, it is 1.
1.
Okay. So here it is not same. So don't think that X2 means 2Y2 equal to 2 and so on. Okay, fine. So please complete the expression. L equal to
Max of 0 minus 0 is J.
0 comma summation.
J
Sorry, summation is already done. Sj
minus Yi plus Syi plus 1.
Syi plus 1. Okay, or Sj plus 1 minus Syi. Okay, so now let us compute this. See, if you want to compute this for the at the first neuron. Okay, so because first neuron is there, so you did not write any loss because Y1 equal to 1. Okay, then let us compute L2 and L3. See, these L2, L3 may not be like for samples. So L2 plus L3. What are those things? L2 means max of 0 plus I'm writing first one 0 comma. What is that? Please tell quickly the values.
8 minus 10.
8 minus 10 plus 1. Right? Plus max of what? 0 comma
5 minus 8.
5 minus 10 plus 1. So what are the answers? 0 plus this one is also 0 plus 0. Right? So loss is 0. So what does that indicate?
It is correctly
classified.
That's all. No, that's what is happened here. It is correctly classified. Okay, you can see like that for other ones. So now let us see cross entropy loss. So let us write it. Yeah. So L equal to, so how is it defined? It straight away takes the score of Yi by summation over e power Sj, j equal to 1 to C. Are we missing anything here? Yeah, you should quickly answer. Is there anything missing here in the cross entropy loss? Yes or no?
Sir, you just written the softmax.
Yeah, this is the only softmax, right? Then where is the even softmax? Yeah, where is the cross entropy loss then? Is it not cross entropy loss? Yes or no? Is this not cross entropy loss? See, what you have seen is this, right? So what we are doing is sigma Pj ln of Qj. Pj will be equal to 0 for for the true label is 0 for other neurons. Only for that neuron it is 1. And hence what happens? Directly it comes SY, ln of this. So this itself is cross entropy loss. Is this clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, e power. So what should I substitute now? E power 10 by e power what? 10 plus e power 8 plus e power 5. Plus epsilon doesn't matter here because it's anyway it's big. Okay, if it is very small, then I think you need to bring in extra. So this value will be how much? This is not 0. Please note that. Okay, cross entropy loss is not 0. It only is very small. So it gives a relative importance of that scores with respect to the all scores. Unlike the softmax. Okay, softmax just try to see if it is higher than that or not. How much higher it doesn't matter. See, for example, x5, if I have actually x6, okay, 100, 5. This also will have actually softmax equal to 0, loss equal to 0. Here also L equal to 0. Okay, they assume that this is also cat class. Okay, and this also implies that L equal to 0. Okay, but if I see the softmax cross entropy loss, okay, this will be almost, this is 0, close to 0. Second one is close to 0. First one is not close to 0. Oh, sorry. First one is close to 1. Is it close to 1 or 0? Close to 0, right? This is close to 0, but this is not close to 0. Correct? So the multi-class SVM loss, it just try to see whether it is higher than the previous scores or not, other scores or not. That's only it ensures. Whereas softmax and cross entropy loss ensures that it reasonably higher than the other scores. Is this clear or not?
So it means these scores are giving me the confidence I have in the classification.
What is that?
For the cross entropy loss, these scores are giving me what confidence I have in the classification.
Right. It is roughly giving what confidence I have is giving in probabilities. Based on that, it is how far we are from the true labels. See, ideally what should happen? 100 is the correct label for cat. Right? So if I see with respect to 100, the first sample x1 and the, say if I see first sample and the sixth sample. Okay. So if I see this sample and this sample with respect to the ground truth, I have which is closer? X6 is closer or X1 is closer?
X6 is close.
X6 is closer. So that's what quantified by cross entropy loss. Okay. How much the PDF or the PMF, okay, of the ground truth, and this is deviating or far away. Okay, to approach to the ground truth PMF, how much still the gap is there? That is being given by cross entropy loss. So in that sense, it is a very strict constraint or reasonably strict constraint than multi-class SVM loss. Multi-class SVM loss is okay, mild. So if you do be above a threshold, I think nobody will touch you in the class. Okay, or even so your parents or teachers doesn't touch. Assume that. Okay, that's a cross entropy. That's a multi-class SVM kind of scenario. But if you want to excel, they will compare with all 100. Okay, even if we miss 1 mark, I think then you will be scolded. So that is in some sense cross entropy. Loss is trying to do. It is trying to see that it is quite close to the ground truth PMF. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, a small question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, where do we actually use multi-class SVM over cross entropy or the other way around?
What is that?
Which do we prefer, sir, in general, or in which case do we prefer?
So usually cross entropy is preferred for the reason that we want to see train the networks as close to the ground, like the ground truth probability mass functions, we want to match the labels as close as possible to this. And it also makes sense when we have good number of data and when we have actually the network is also reasonably well designed and so on, especially when the data is large in quantity and representing the reasonably representing the enough distribution of the data, original distribution of the data. Probably I think when the problem is very difficult to converge, I think in my view, probably cross entropy loss will enable us to converge faster, because it's only ensuring that the other the score is higher than the others. Unlike the cross entropy loss where we want to try to match the ground truth. So if the data is small or if the distribution is too difficult to fit, then multi-class SVM loss is fine to start or to train with. And when we have enough data, cross entropy loss is good.
Yes, sir. But also, won't cross entropy loss actually cause overfitting because it always keeps compared to multi-class SVM loss?
Correct. So usually that is also the problem. That's why actually there are several steps to overcome the overfitting, or how to get the generic decision boundaries.
Yes.
Is there, but the problem is actually the cross multi-class SVM loss. What is it ensuring is it only looks at a given data, and from that data is trying to say whether you are able to do well or not. So if the problem on the other way, if we see, if we have very small data and train a network with the multi-class SVM loss, and it converges and gives almost zero loss, okay, and we may be very happy, and the training accuracies will be very high. But testing time or during test with test data, you may have a unseen data samples in the test data which are not mimicked by the training data. In such case, what happens? The scores will be very high, so they won't go to zero. So the other scores may be high compared to the correct class score. In that case, loss will be high, and then misclassification also occurs. So, and it doesn't see to which class also we are, how much it is misclassified. It is just trying to see that, see if S1 is the correct class. Okay, if S2, S3, if you see any of the scores, if it is slightly say this is 5 and this is 8 in our case, it doesn't matter for it. Or if this is 8 and this is 5 also doesn't matter for it. Cross entropy loss in the expression, if we see, still I think we are considering that. So, but the values matter as such. Even though the say if it is 8 and 1 or 8 and 5 doesn't matter for multi-class SVM, but whereas that matters for the cross entropy loss. So in that sense, actually what we are trying to do is we are trying to find out a kind of a local solution, a more local solution by the SVM loss than a cross entropy loss. So generality is questioned there also. Here also general cross overfitting may happen, but it is trying to overfit at least. And then we are trying to see, then we with some reasonable procedures or adaptations, we can get into the avoid overfitting and get the better solution, then decision boundaries.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So now let us see exactly the same problem. So usually what happens is if even for the same weight vector, okay, so assume that even for the same input sample, we may have several solutions possible. Okay, that's one problem. Second problem is the overfitting. So if we have actually data samples, if these are the data samples of two classes, okay, so if we are asked to find out a class, if we want to do classification, and based on the say cross entropy loss or whatever, with strict classifier, we are able to do a perfect classification. So that decision boundary is something like this. Okay. So even if we consider that there are even more challenging scenarios, something like this. Okay, then the decision boundary may also go something like this. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do is based on the training samples, we try to exactly classify all the training samples to the other class, or with 100% accuracy, we want to do perform classification. And this always may not be a good solution because what may happen is this may be a noisy sample, whichever we are seeing this side. So this also may be a noisy sample. So in that case, what is needed is we need a more generic solution than a particular solution or a specific solution to the given data. This problem is referred to as overfitting. So these are the two features, X1, X2, and this is the decision boundary. Okay. So the other problem is, say, assume that we have one sample. So this is the sample is, let this be the sample. Okay. And now we have some different solutions by different networks. Say if one training has led to this solution. Okay. Other solution, other network, other training. Okay. We might have initialized randomly in each time. So other training might lead to this solution. I'm sharing again. Yeah, other training might have led to this solution. Okay, other training might have led to this solution. Okay, so now the question is, which of them is good solution? Okay, it can be, there are several other possibilities. You can construct many number of possibilities. Okay, you can also construct, say, 1 minus 1, okay, 1, 0, and so on, right? So you can construct many other possibilities. Among these possibilities, which is a good solution is the question. Because each gives different decision boundaries, as we have seen. See, what is this decision boundary? If we consider two features x1, x2, that is x equal to x1, x2, how do you visualize this decision boundary? What is that I have plotted here? Assume that it is a linear classifier. Okay, for making our job simple. So even here, if it is a linear classifier, what does this decision boundary indicate? Quick answer. What is this decision boundary? How do I visualize, I relate this decision boundary?
The loss is less.
Okay, loss is less, fine. For what loss is less? Assume that all these are solutions. What I'm saying is not, these are not choices. These are all the solutions. When I train with different initializations, I have got these all with minimum loss. So now assume that I have got, say, assume just for 1 minus 1. This is one solution I have got, just for simplicity, the last one. Okay, assume that I have got. So what does this decision boundary, if I plot this as this, plot this solution, say I want to plot this solution, whichever I have got here. Okay, how should I plot is the question. How should I plot the decision boundary?
A line intercepting the
line intercepting the
x2.
Yeah, so it is x1, x2. This is nothing but W transpose X is equal to 0, right? So W transpose X plus B equal to 0 in general, but here we are writing W transpose X equal to 0. Okay, so and hence it is equal to 1 minus 1 and x1, x2, and this is equal to x1 minus x2 is equal to 0. And hence, is this correct? This is the decision boundary I got. right? And this is being depicted by the vector. So 1 minus 1. So either this way or yeah, this way. So 1 minus 1. 1 here minus 1 here. Is this clear? This is what we mean by, see, this decision boundary indicates essentially, if it is linear decision boundary, it indicates a W. That's all. I hope this is clear. So if I am indicating a linear decision boundary, it means that there is some W corresponding to it. Okay, and that's what I am representing here. Okay, now we have several possibilities of the solution. The question now is, which should I pick? Okay, these are all solutions, all possible solutions. What do you think? A quick answer is welcome.
So maybe these are all
But,
solutions, but
yeah.
the losses also be different for that. Though it
No,
is
no,
same
not
thing.
necessary. Assume that all gave same loss. You can
Same
see
loss.
here, especially here, assume that I just see W transpose X equal to 0 is my solution. Okay, that's how I assume that it's my solution. Now you see this W1 transpose into X. Oh, sorry, W transpose X. Here is equal to 1 is my solution. Assume that. Okay, just for taking an example. Then now this is the solution, actual solution here. Please separate this example and this example. This example is given to illustrate what is the decision boundary, how to understand the decision boundary. Okay, here what I'm trying to give is among the different solutions I have, which to pick. Okay, that's the question now. Okay, also now W transpose X equal to 1. That's my solution here. Okay, solution, assume that in this case. Now just see W1 transpose X equal to how much? It is equal to 1. W2 transpose X equal to how much here? How much? It is 1, right?
Again 1.
Yeah, and then W3 transpose X.
1.
And then W4 transpose X.
1.
1.
Yeah, so all are solutions only for this equation or for this decision boundary. If this is the decision boundary, okay, solution for what? For decision boundary. Okay, all are solutions only. Is it not? So now which solution is to be picked? That's my question.
Oh, shall we go for
All are being loss or zero loss.
shall we go for test data and decide?
Okay, so usually test validation data will be there, but we don't want to essentially use a empirical solution like that. While training itself, I should be able to figure out or at least zero down to a particular solution. Then we will validate its accuracies.
Okay.
So any suggestion by any others? Here in such solutions, so that means what is happening here is, if we see a loss function, okay, so if the loss is same in all the cases. So if I define loss equal to W transpose X minus B equal is the loss. Okay, so in that case, it is equal to 0 in all cases, in all this, in all W1 to W4. So loss term alone is not able to decide which is better solution. So what we define is, we modify this loss, okay, L modified by a regularization term. What we do is L plus lambda times regularization loss. Okay, so this regularization, what is try to do is, regularization role is to figure out a simple solution. Okay, among what? Among many possible solutions. Okay, it tries to figure out a simple solution. Simple in what sense? We have to define it in the regularization term. Okay, essentially regularization term is in defining what we mean by that simple. Okay, or what we mean, how do we want to constrain this solution? So in some cases, simple may not be necessary, but I may want to constrain in some way, in a particular way. Okay, so I should be able to code it or encode it in terms of regularizer. And regularizer is in some sense now, it is condition on what? Regularization is the condition on W. So we are trying to put a condition on W. So R is nothing but a condition on W. That is the weight vector or weight elements for choosing a solution. Choice of solution. Okay. So there are several popular ways in which we can do regularization. So essentially L effective, okay, L effective loss is equal to L plus lambda times regularization. Okay, and then this regularization is equal to, say, it can be defined as, see if we see these things, which do you think is better? Visually, if we see, one importance may be, see if I have only one variable here. See if I take W1, what is the advantage you see? Say if let me write these things. W1 is 1, 0, 0, 0. Try to see the advantage of each of these things. W2 is equal to half, 0, 0. This is in some sense trivial example. So I will try to write a slightly different values here, which still follow the same discussion that we had. Okay, so let me take some other values here. 1 minus 1. Pick only few solutions. W3 is equal to half, 1 minus 1. Please see that all these will have the same thing that we are discussing. W4 is equal to 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. That is 1 by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 4. Also, all these have the same characteristic that we have been discussing. And W transpose X equal to 1. Okay, all fit to. Right? So now among these, if you see the first one, if you see, what is the solution we are getting? W1 transpose X, if I see, what is the answer? X1. Okay, X1 equal to 1, X1 equal to, say, W transpose X equal to 1, right? So the X1 equal to 1 is the solution. Is it not? If I substitute particular X. So this is a simple solution in some sense because it doesn't involve X2, X3, X4 and so on. So I'm able to say, take a decision, okay, just based on a single feature. So it is a sparse solution. Okay, so yeah, it picks only one feature value and then take a decision to put into which of the class. Okay, in that sense, it is sparse and simple. Can you see in any other students see any specialty about any other weights here? Weight vectors? W4 transpose X, if you see, what is the advantage we have? What are we doing here? 1 by 4 into X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus X4. I have written simplified form. This is what is doing. All features. Okay, and then taking a decision. So it is giving equal priority to each feature and then based on that it is taking a solution. This is also simple and distributed solution. This is actually simple and sparse solution, but focused. So both are good in their own way, is it not? And others see there is a small, compared to these two, they doesn't look simple or more generic. Say if one is X1 minus X2 plus X3 equal to 0. Other is X1 plus X2 by 2 plus X3 minus X4 equal to 0. Which are not as simple as this, are equal to 1. As they're not as simple as this. right? So we see that these two are simple solution. So now how do we get such simple solution is the question. One way what people do is they define regularization as L1 norm, okay, of the vector W. So that is actually, or the other way of getting a simple solution is defining L2 norm, okay, of the vector W. So a vector or matrix W, let it be a vector or a matrix. So in this case, what? Mod x1 plus, sorry, mod W1 plus mod W2 plus mod W3 plus mod W4 has to be as minimum as possible. Whichever is minimum, that I will pick it as correct solution. So this is in addition to the loss function. Loss function all are equal. Okay, we are not considering that discussion now. So now if I apply L1 regularization, which one will be picked among W1 to W4? Need a quick answer.
W1 and
Which one will
W4.
be picked?
W1 and W4.
W1 and W2 as well. Mod is here.
W4, sir.
W4. Oh, W1 and W4. Very good. Okay, so here accidentally it is picking W1 and W4. Correct. So it is picking either W1 or W4 here. Okay. It essentially we will see later. Among having same L2 norm, if we see L1, if we select by L1 regularization, it picks only sparse solution. Okay, here because of the values, if you see L2 norms are different, it is picking both of these things by L1 norm. So essentially L1 norm picks a sparse solution. Okay, what happens to this L2 norm? If we use L2 norm now, which one will be picked? W1 square plus W2 square plus W3 square plus W4. The L2 norm you know, right? Whole square and the square root. And whichever is minimum with this, okay, minimum among possible solutions, okay, is picked. Implies what?
W4.
Yeah, it is equal to W4.
W4.
W4 is picked. So it usually L2 norm picks a solution which is more distributed. Okay, and L1 norm picks a solution which is more sparse. To get that little more clear here, so let us take a slightly different example. Let us take a solution where you have actually the L2 norm is same, okay, but the L1 norm will pick appropriately on the sparse solution. So assume that W1 here again equal to half 0 0. W2 is equal to 1 by 2 root 2. So I just designed like this to have the same L2 norm. Okay, but L1 norm is different for all these things. Okay, and then W3, assume that these are the solutions in a particular linear classifier learning or a neural network learning with single layer. Okay, and among these, if you see L2 norm now, this is W1, W2, W3. L2 norm is how much? If you compute for all these three things, it's equal to 1 by
1/2.
1 by 2 L2 norm. Yeah, if you define L2 norm as, see, you can define if there are, yeah, W is the matrix, okay, with Ij being its elements. Okay, then you can define L2 norm as Wij, okay, whole square. Anyway, no, mod is not needed here. Wij whole square, I summation over I comma c under square root. So this is how we define. So square root is also there. So what is L2 norm now? For all elements, for all Ij.
1/2.
1 by root 2.
1 by root. This is same for all. Okay. So now if you see L1 norm, 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2 here for all the three. Whereas L2 norm, if you L1 norm, if you see, how much? L1 norm in matrix, how do we define? We are not using matrix, but I am defining just for later. That's all. Summation over W, in fact, I and J. Here also I and J. Okay, this is how we define L1 norm. Right. Now, what's the L1 norm here? It is 1.
Root 2.
Yeah, 1. Yeah, it takes. So, what is the L1 norm here? 4 by 2 root 2, comma 1 by root 2. So, which will be picked by which is correct solution? Minimizes L, F(2) is equal to L plus lambda times R. Okay, is minimized by what? W3. Also, it is, as you can see, it picks a sparse solution. Among the possible solutions, that L2 like norm is also same for them. Okay. So usually the tendency is that the sparse solutions, it doesn't miss. Okay, L1 norm. Whereas L2 norm now, if you see, if we take another example where W1, W2 and W3 have same L1 norm, among that what L2 norm picks. Okay, that's what we want to see now. So these are the solutions. Okay, I think I missed. So let's put here. Same L1 norm we need, right? Yeah, same L1 norm, fine. So they're all having same L1 norm. So then in that case, which one will be picked by L2 norm? So L1 norm here is how much? So we write W. Please tell what is the L1 norm here?
1, sir.
Yeah, for all these W, J or whatever. 1, 1, 1.
1.
W, L2 norm. I just write like this. L2 norm is how much?
1 by root 2.
1 by root 2.
1.
And 1 and
1 by 2.
1 by 2 or 1 by 4?
1 by 2, sir.
1 by 2. Okay, 1 by 2. So which is picked now? This
1
is
by 2, W3.
so the L2 norm picks this solution which is more distributed. No, that's the nature of L2 norm. Okay, so if you usually people represent like this. So if you see all having L2 norm are given by, say, if there is x1, x2, only two features are W1, W2. Okay, 2 weight elements. In that case, all solutions having same L2 norm can be shown by this. Okay, this can also be called as some ball of whatever P or distance. Okay, so now you can, among these, which one are picked by L1 norm? If you see, or these things. Okay, L1 norm picks these solutions. Essentially, it picks, okay, these solutions. If you see this whatever I'm sketching here are all having same L1 norm. Okay, among that what L2 norm picks are again these things. Or in fact, what again in this L2 norm picks is this one. Okay, if I say that these are the initial W's, among that what L2 picks is this. Okay, these are the initial W's. Among that what L1 picks, okay, are these. Hope the discussion is clear. For same L2, these are picked by L1. Okay, for same L1, okay, if you see, these are picked by L2.
Sir, one question about L2 norm, sir.
What is that?
One question, sir. So if the weights are actually greater than 1, so L2 norm wouldn't actually pick a distributed solution, right?
What is that? Weights are greater than?
1, sir.
Okay. See, but we
So
should
this
have
one-
same L1 norm, right? Yeah, construct a solution. So what I'm saying is among all having same L1 norm, if you see L2 norm picks a sparse solution, L2 norm picks a distributed solution. In general also there is a tendency to pick distributed solution for L2 norm. But as you have seen the first example, see L1 norm usually picks a sparse solution, right? But it can also pick when the weights are completely different, it can also pick this kind of solution. Okay, so it can happen. But both are simple.
Sir, actually,
Yeah.
sir, if we take the previous example itself, that L1 norm
Yeah.
where it's same. So here, if we actually consider omega
This
1,
one, this
W-
example you're
W1,
saying?
this one or the last one, sir.
Okay, yeah.
So here, if W1 is 8800, W2 is 16 and 000, and
Hmm.
W3 is 4444.
Hmm.
Then L2 norm would actually pick the sparse solution, right?
Okay, what you're saying is you're trying to multiply. No, you should 8800 and then 44 you are taking here, 1600. So in that case, how much? Even then, right? Oh. So 444, it is 16 into 4. And even still it picks this only, right? In fact, they are same. That
Yes, sir.
there
Yes.
it is just that incidentally they are becoming same. That's all. It prefers to pick the distributed solution.
Yes.
Sometimes it may match with a solution which is not very distributed, but among that it picks the distributed solutions usually.
Yes, sir.
Because the very nature of L2 is equally distributing all, right? So L1 gives priority to one of them. So as you can see here, so it is in some sense equal priority to all W1 and W2. So you can see this based on this. Here you can see sometimes W1 will give more priority to this X1 or say one and sometimes to other and so on. L1 has that kind of nature, but L2 we try to give equal priority to W1 and W2 most of the times. Fine. So probably we conclude here. So in the next class, we will discuss on the convolution neural networks. And then subsequently we'll bring in little more regularization aspects, especially more pertaining to neural networks. Thank you.